Hi, I'm Rick Paris, and this is Conscious Reality Creator, and I'm here today with Andrew Thompson and Elizabeth Jackson. They were two of my clients when I began moving people's paradigms forward. I started realizing that the relationship was ending at the end of the time that I was contracted to work, and then I realized there was always more I wanted to do, and so I had this idea. I'm going to take a couple of my outstanding clients and open them to a relationship with me, like as friends, because that relationship ended and it needed to end, but I also wanted to have greater impact, and so this was one of the ways I decided to do it, so I could grow and change at a faster rate with people who are like-minded and enjoy this paradigm. And so one of the things that makes the most significant shift in your life, the most fundamental shift, it's also one of the easiest ways to begin releasing the past and not living in the past anymore. Past being a way of thinking. The past is no more than a way of thinking and a remembrance of that thinking. So in order to break the past, you have to be able to let it go, but I have to be able to stand in something new, and the value system is what we do that with.
Yeah, so the video that you saw on Sunday about how to choose a value, well, first of all, we wanted this channel in general to have the format where that on like the Sunday video, Rick was able to teach something, and then maybe later in the week, the three of us would come on and talk it out so that you could understand in real life, like how to process, because that's another thing about Rick. And he said it before in the videos where he works really well when it's a person, which is why he's asking people to put in those questions, and we are doing the Q&As, because when he is directly talking to somebody, this might be a time to just bring up, because I remember at the end of our 3 months, I said, how are you doing this? Because it's like he's doing something you can't quite figure out. And you told me the story about being a 5-year-old and the mechanic.
Oh, I mean the motorcycle?
Yeah, I'll do it quickly because I'm faster.
I was 8.
Yeah, okay, 8. And so basically he was telling me the story about how he was like breaking things apart from like a really young age, and then he would be able to like see what's not functioning correctly, and then put it back together. And so when he was telling me this story about putting this bike together when he was 8 years old, I was like, that's how you do it. Like the shaman thing, that's how you're doing it. So he always says, I need to hear your voice. I want to see, because he's breaking down all that information by hearing you, and he can hear the problem. He knows what's not working, and then he's able to break it apart and bring it back together. So anyways, long story short, we hope that by us being here and having these discussions, especially because he's done that for us, and he's gotten to the point where he's taught us to be able to do it for ourselves more so than before. We still come to him, we're still beginners.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that is that Rick's got, 30 years of experience doing this, something like that.
Pretty
So
much.
Rick's mastered it, and he taught us. I went through his program. Liz went through his program, like I said. But we're still learning. I'm 8 months out of Rick's program. I'm progressing and still learning, still, growing myself. And so we thought that it would also be really helpful for anybody who's interested in this to see other people grow, how we do it, and even some of the real things that we struggle with still, some of the things that are challenges in our growth, because it is a journey that if you want to become a conscious reality creator, it's a journey to go on. And so being able to see us and how we're dealing with it, I think would be really helpful. So
I guess we'll start. So this one is piggybacking on the last video about values. So it's definitely the most important thing, is it not? Well, one of.
Yeah. It's the most important thing at the beginning.
Yeah. Because, as we do these videos talking about you are an adolescent until you decide to become a spiritual adult, because nobody else can do that for you. And the fastest and most, best way to be an adult, I don't even think you could do it without it.
No, you can't. Yeah. Time won't even make you an adult.
Yeah. And so
it's got to be a choice.
Yeah.
And so, and then what happens over time, your values are ideals that you function within. So your character is based on a set of self-authored, self-determined values. and that creates like, to me, in my mind, I see a person as a faceted stone. The more values they have, the more facets to their character and their personality. And so, yeah.
Well, if I don't mind just asking you about it, because the way I'm starting to understand values is a lot of the times we know love and money goes together, because love is what comes from you, so it springs forth, and then it turns into value how you express it. So when you start living by your values, you are literally consciously choosing to bring love into your life and express it as a specific value. I wanted to see what your thoughts were on that, if I'm on the right track with that.
I'm not love and money?
Well, love and money go hand in hand usually, because it's actually love and value. Money's the representation of value.
Well, that's a way, but, that's set up in a person's mind. Love can be far more valuable than money. But, do you know what I mean? It's like value. A value is wherever you place significance. Right? Emotional significance, something that I could feel, something. So, are you saying love and money are values?
No. What I'm
saying
saying
they go together?
When you start to live by values, you're choosing to bring value. You're choosing to value something like empowerment. If I chose to live.
You are, but what you're really bringing underneath that is an emotional continuity to your life. It's a value in the context of the meaning of the word. It's valuable. But what's valuable about it is that this particular value that I choose, this ideal, gives me a positive emotional response. And so when I feel my value, I am uplifted naturally. I feel positive in a way. I feel lighter. I feel more capable. I feel more esteem and more confidence when I'm coming from this. I love communication, and just knowing that I'm making a choice to make communication better excites me. So when you begin, how you begin anything in life matters. And so it begins a process from a very emotional, positive, stable place. And so the value, yes, it's a value, but the value is in the emotional response that particular thing gives you. This is why an adolescent might say, I'm going to have creativity. I just use that a lot because it always pops in my head. Creativity is a value of mine. I love creativity. And so you ask a person, well, what have you created lately? What have you done? And they're like, I haven't done anything. That's not a value. If you're going to want to do it because it feels good, you're going to be inspired to motivate yourself this way. So if you're not, it's not really a value. It's something your adolescent in your mind's come up with, said, oh, this is a cool one. Everybody's going to think, I'm going to love telling everybody my value is creativity. But the adolescent is getting off on that. I'm not really creative. So there's no emotional value.
Well, I think it's important to say, because it just occurred to me, I was seeing it more as, to become a spiritual adult, like, you have to choose these values. True. However, I think one of the bigger, because I always get back to like the biggest things you've taught, like what's most important, and one of those things is self-authorship. So most people are living out quote unquote values, but they're not their own values. They're not self-authored, and that's why you're not experiencing self-esteem. You're not building your integrity of character by choice. And that's how you get power in life, is to know, I know why I'm doing this. I know exactly why I'm motivated, as opposed to most people are doing stuff based on somebody else's value. Most people, I think, I've asked, what's your value? Hard work. And he told me how you find your values is, what do you love?
Yeah.
Like, think about when you were younger, what did you love? I can't imagine a little kid writing on a journal, I love working hard. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not a value. That's a value that we've all adopted. Discipline, self-discipline, hard work. And it's like, no, my
values of my political party.
Yeah. It's like,
those are my values.
All
or
these
my
other
church
ones.
or whatever religion.
Exactly.
Whatever. Yeah, and what I've just...
That's why it's a function of the past.
Mm-hmm.
What is?
Because those were taught to you so early. You have to break that paradigm.
Right?
Well, just any value that they've told you, that God is a man is a value, or whatever religion that you happen to be is a valuable way to look at life and to live this way. That has been given to you, and you were raised in that environment. But you cannot be an adult operating within a system that was given to me. It has to be my system, and so I have to find a way to motivate myself in a positive way emotionally.
And I also think, because people's emotional well-being, you said it in the video, so you rewatch that if you didn't watch it, but it's like, you feel good or you feel bad based on whatever happened out there. And the bit like for me, one of the best reasons to hold a value that's like self-authored and you're determined to like hold the line on the value and always say yes to it is that you're gonna feel good in life. Like you're not gonna feel bad anymore because it can't be shaken. If you feel good because you have better raises or you have a better position or you get a better, whatever it may be, you're not actually feeling good. You're dependent on somebody else giving you a hit of feeling good.
It's a cheap hit. It's a quick one.
Yeah.
And I get to say, I'm the boss.
Yeah, but your value, once you say yes to it, it can never be taken away. You said yes, and you're going to take that self-esteem, and it cannot be taken.
Yeah.
You built that. It's yours. Nobody can ever take it away from you.
Yeah, that's where real self-esteem comes from.
Yeah.
Well, describe then a little bit about self-esteem and what that is. Because from what I understand, self-esteem is it's you earning it.
Yeah, it's the love you earn.
Mm-hmm.
It's the love that you earn. So if you're operating through a value, you're going to watch yourself feel good and watch yourself make a choice that makes me feel good. And I know this makes me feel good. So what happens if somebody tries to make you not feel good, for instance, if you're in your value and you notice, here's a chance somebody's making me feel bad. Here's a better chance I could communicate. Let me stay in my value and hold and try to communicate with this person who's trying to make me feel bad about something, right? Because as you learn to communicate with this person, if that's a value, you're going to be feeling good while you're figuring out what is this reflection in my life. I'll be feeling good rather than getting triggered and start projecting and get into an argument. I'm going to be like, no, this is about communication, and I want to know, like, what are you saying? Mm-hmm. What's going on? And then the feedback, if you can open that line of questioning from a positive place, then the reality is going to go in a more positive direction.
Got it.
Because of the way you began.
Mm.
I think
otherwise you're coming from the past.
Yeah.
You say something, I go, fuck you. What the fuck? Who do you think you are? You can't say that to me, and you're already lost.
Yeah.
You've already lost your self-esteem because I'm not earning love.
I immediately went outward. I immediately went to the external.
I didn't go back inside and go,
someone
what's going
said
to make
something
me
about me, oh my God. And
right.
so it's about me and my self-esteem, and they were able to take it from me. Right. Whereas opposed to what Liz is saying with values.
Outside validation crushes self-esteem.
And look at how much you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like seriously, look at your life and think, did my mood change because something on the outside happened? Like that's not self-esteem. You need to watch that you're doing that because 100% you are. Unless you are choosing values consciously, you are taking hits from the outside. And that's why
either you're going to contextualize your life or the past will.
Exactly. And so this is one of the things that I've just started to really notice impact in my life is with values, you're choosing consciously to give something significance, right? So with Elizabeth, it was empowerment. With me, my first value was authenticity. And so what you're doing is you're starting to make choices and saying consciously, I'm going to give empowerment significance. But the problem is, for most of our lives, we've been giving fear significance or shame significance or anger significance. Someone triggers us and the immediate lash out is to, fuck you, man. Because it's held so much significance because I've patterned myself week by week, day by day, month by month, year by year to react in this way.
And the longer you do a pattern, the more significant
the more weighty it gets.
Exactly.
And the more weighty it gets, this is the most weighty place. This is the most dense spot. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, just because you brought it up,
and
I think that's what we really wanted to do on this video,
yeah.
Is to be personal. So you mentioned what your first value was and what mine is, and I think that's the best way for people to kind of understand how this works. Because we were very conscious of
and watch
choosing
them.
Values.
See if something doesn't go down in this, if they're not owning up their values when they're in conversation.
Well, and we just as you're talking about, we just had a conversation before we went on video with me, Rick, and Liz, where I had to own up to actually not living up to some of my values, and one of the values is it's authenticity and honesty. And one of my patterns from the past has been to manipulate, to get things that I want. And this is a common pattern I think a lot of people have, is manipulation. It's a way, it's simple things, it's a manipulation when someone comes and says, how are you? And your automatic response is, I'm good. But inside you're feeling hurt, you're feeling and you're hiding. It's a bit of a manipulation. And we don't realize how many of these things in our life that we do every single day are actually coming from a fear-based function.
And manipulations always are causing pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You may be so used to that pain all the time you don't recognize it, but you are taking on pain. every time you're manipulated.
Well, it hurts because you're
Yeah.
doing something that's I'm reacting out of fear, not out of empowerment. And that's what I'm talking about with the weight of it, because
Fear of pain.
so much of my life in the past, I gave so much weight and significance to things like shame and hurt and some of the experience I've had in the past. So when I come to now a future scenario, for example, I come into a coffee shop, I look across the way and I see a beautiful woman standing there. She's just gorgeous. And my desire steps up and is like, oh, I want to go talk to her. But then what immediately comes is a wall, a barrier of, oh, but I'm not good enough. She's way too pretty for me.
Right, that's the old pattern. That's the significant
Exactly, that's
pattern.
the significance from the old pattern. But when you're consciously choosing, okay, but I'm going for empowerment. I'm going to go talk to this woman because that's what I'm going to go for.
Right.
As I continue to make those choices, at first, empowerment will still be light because you've only had a few real conscious experiences of it. So say I go talk to the girl at the coffee shop, even if she shoots me down, I'm still going to have a boost of esteem because I went for it.
Yeah.
So now empowerment feels real to me. It feels tangible. I can taste it. It's a feeling. It's like, oh, I had this experience. This is great. I'm pumped. Go ahead.
If you can spend more time making that moment significant, you'll get much more significance faster.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not a function. I have 20 years of doing this pattern. It's gonna. When I do this, now I need to do this one for 20 years. It's not like that.
Yeah.
Positive is always more powerful than a negative. They're not equals. A positive unit and a negative unit, which would you choose? You'd probably take the positive. They're not equal.
Yeah.
They're not equal. But anyway, it's like you have to be able to see a future. You have to be able to hang on to a value and know that this value is going to bring me more of itself as I'm in it. And so the significance needs to be compressed. The minute that you do the new behavior and you catch yourself, you want to go, wow, I'm doing it. Look, I can change. Things like that will gain much more significance. So the new behavior carries much more weight. You're way more inclined to move
faster.
Yes,
faster.
Because time, as everyone knows, is speeding up. Why is everything happening so fast? Because we're becoming conscious reality creators faster and faster. So you have to get better at change. You have to get, okay, 20 years I've been doing this. Now 20 minutes I want to be over this. You can do it that fast. But you have to be good at it. You have to be good at it, you know?
Yeah.
But I want you to know, yes, I can handle anything in 20 minutes. That's the ideal. That's the goal. Not to be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Well, the thing that I would say based on Andrew's example of something simple, right? It's good, which is I want to talk to a girl. So notice how for most people, not all, but maybe in that situation, a person would decide what they're going to do based on what they think is going to happen. Well, I don't think I will approach her because she could reject me and that doesn't feel good. So then you would have lost. You're gauging what's my likelihood of winning or losing, and then you make a decision.
Right.
The values, what Rick taught me, you never lose. It's a win-win-win-win all the fucking time because you did your value and that's going to make you feel good. And so it doesn't matter if the girl said no, you're going to feel pumped because you're like, I was brave. If that's what you're going for. I fucking was brave.
You're not dependent on your esteem for
outside validation.
So she could turn you down, but you are empowered because it's like, who cares? I didn't get the form I necessarily wanted, but it's all good
went for my
because
value
I went for it.
I feel great.
And that's actually been coming up even just more. I've been working on this for about 8 months now, and I'm starting to get this experience now where I see the values actually showing up in my life in this way. Because when I take the risk, meaning, to go talk to that girl across the way is a little bit of a gamble. I don't know what I'm going to get. You know what I mean? I'm not 100% sure. I know I'm going in there with empowerment, so I'm expecting there to be a positive reaction, but I'm not 100% sure. And that's the courage it takes to live your values. And that's why no matter what, even if the form didn't come back, you're going to get esteem because it took courage, it took strength, it took something in you to say, I will step into the unknown anyway, and you're always going to feel good after that. It's like starting a piece of art.
The adolescent can't even imagine that I could never lose again. Never.
I still can't imagine that. That's still hard for me to see. It is. It's like, because when I just recently I approached somebody that has been an authority figure in my life.
I'm going to win every time. Like
it's like when I went to approach it, it felt big because it's like, okay, I'm going to be honest with somebody in a way and connect with somebody in a way that I've never done before. So it was a whole new experience, but my adolescent was jumping forward, my child was jumping forward, and they had a belief set basically that if I'm honest, if I really show myself, something bad could happen.
Yeah.
Because out of my past, at the times where I really was shown or something, I was humiliated. Someone made fun of me. Whatever the case may be for each individual is going to be different, but that's what you end up. I lost track. I lost track where I was even going with it.
No, it's a win-win. But you were saying how for you,
going,
you're still dealing with the fact that that's
Yeah,
sometimes
it's still
hard
hard
to
for
believe.
you that I'll be a winner all the time.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
so exactly. So I had to go into that experience. I had to do quite a bit of processing, and that's what the values do for you, though, because as you start living your values, you start feeling good, and then if you go below that mark, you're very sensitive to it. Now you're like, that shit
you
hurt.
have a gauge.
So now you're able to recognize. Meaning, I decided to go speak to this person and connect to them in a way that I hadn't before. And because I'm feeling good and going to it, and then the bad feelings show up, meaning like, oh, but what if I'm rejected? Or, oh, what if it doesn't work out right? Now I'm really acute to those feelings. Right. Because I'm already feeling good, and anything that drops below it, I'm going to recognize.
Just by taking a value and going through it in your mind, your subconscious already knows, okay, this is an elevated place, this is new. And so, like you said, when I am staying in this place, even if I'm not very good at it, I'm going to notice how often I get bumped off.
Yeah.
You're going to now notice because there's a difference. I drew a line in the sand. I'm not really the same anymore, even if I'm not utilizing these values, but the fact that I'm attempting to changes the game.
Most important.
You don't have to do it perfectly.
Yes.
You just have to do it.
I want to reiterate that because that's huge, because at the beginning for me, it was a bit of a struggle because I would punish myself. And that was an old pattern as well. So if I didn't live up to it, oh, fucking A, and you know what I mean, or whatever it is that you do to punish yourself to get through.
Don't shame.
Exactly, and then it makes it even harder to step back into your values. So when you're doing it, no, don't do it like me, because I did it with so much significance at first.
No.
You gotta just step your way in.
Yeah.
Step your way in.
My first 3 months after I chose empowerment, I mean, I can't know exactly scientifically, but I'd say that 25 to 50% of the time I've said no. Maybe it was less.
Oh yeah,
but,
this is good.
But the thing is, I was conscious of my experience, and that's all that's really asked of you. Become conscious. Like, recognition is the first step to change. And I also didn't feel like burdened by it, because I knew, okay, I know it's going to be harder in the beginning because it's been hard for me to be empowered. But really, over a course of a very short amount of time, it's very easy for me to choose empowerment now. It's like almost a reflex. I don't have to think usually, am I disempowered right now? I just kind of know. Whereas if I had been hard on myself those first 3 months, like, who knows where I would have been. But instead, I just knew, like, I'm starting out. I got it. I'm going to just keep going. I keep saying yes. And if I say no, like, it's, at least I was aware of what I did. Do you know what I mean? Like, I said no to my value this weekend. I'm not sitting around punishing myself for it.
Yeah.
I'm aware. And then look forward. You always want to look forward.
No, and Liz, just listen to that, because she's helped me so much with that, because for me it's been, it's like you were just telling me, significant up front. So if it's significant up front, which there are personality types probably similar to me, where it's I'm putting so much weight on this decision. And even if I fuck up, like, or something goes wrong or whatever, I'm still cool.
Yeah.
But the weight that I'm putting on it makes it to be this big thing. And then if I fuck up or something doesn't go right, then that's where we get down.
And you just know, because I didn't feel good the weekend that I said no to my value. And it's like, great. That's a lot of recognition. I knew I was saying no. I knew why I wasn't feeling good. So that's another thing why this work is so important. You want to become a mechanic in your own reality, because most people just feel bad or feel good, and it's like, why? Nobody knows the answer to that. Working with Rick, he'll know. You know why you feel, and that's very important to have, like, a self-authored, empowered experience as a human being. Know why you feel the way you do, because then you can actually drive your vehicle.
And what I think also to just add on to that is, if you're going for values, if you decide to do this, reach out for support for somebody, because we have each other. And when we step out of our values, like me just this week, Rick, Elizabeth are there to actually hold me accountable and say, hey, but in a good way, not in like, oh, dude, you fucked up, you need to get back. It's like, no, come on, just come on back.
Yeah, I'm not that position. When they paid me, I was in that position. Now I'm their friend. You know, and I'll take this moment to explain what's going on with me too. And this is recognizing, look, you know, I have to grow and change, and I want a very powerful, reflective experience. So I picked people that I knew that I could work things through, and they would work it with me. And there's a triangle. Basically, I'm building a triangle. This is a life of alchemy. It's a life of checks and balances. It's like when we're having something and we talk to Liz, and she's like, oh, you know, you guys need to talk, you know, and I'm like, okay, then I'll do it because that's what's being said in the triangle that I've created out of intimacy, out of love, to make a powerful environment for me to grow and change, and now we're moving that out again here.
Yeah.
And like what triangle's coming back to us? Like we're looking to build something, right? And a new paradigm is one person at a time. And so this was my answer to my own dilemma in my mind, like, wow, there's so many parts of me that I want to grow and nurture and change. And if I only have one reflection, my wife, she's amazing. I love my wife. She's a great reflection. But there's more to me than that. I need more different flavored reflections so I can see shadow aspects of myself and other pieces in myself coming through a different avenue and engaging that and learning how to navigate out of love, out of making a very conscious choice to bring somebody into my life and me offering my life openly to them. That's a very powerful thing to do, and it's in a very advanced way to consciously create reality when conscious reality creation ultimately is an art form. First you're a technician, then you gain some mastery, and then you gain an artistry, which is yours, like doing things many years in advance, like my son. I knew 30 years ago if I had a kid, it was going to be in my 50s, and if I did even do it, I want a maverick. I want to teach somebody to be a leader, and my son will be a leader, not because I say it. I invited that space in, and so I'm nurturing that space. I'm not going to control him. I'm not going to force him. If he doesn't like to do anything, that's all fine with me, but he's going to be a leader because I created the environment to nurture one. And so I know that because I've been creating that kind of reality, I know how to act in reality. I know what the feedback mechanism is telling me because I've put a lot of significance into creating it, and that's what this is. And we wanted to share this with you, like real time, 3 people that don't know exactly. We figured out, okay, we're going to talk about stuff that we already, it's very loose, very real, because I want you to see.
I know, I have like an uncomfortability because my mind keeps going like, we're veering off and get back on track. I'm like, wait, the whole point of this video is for us to talk about our values, and we've been like, so let's get back on track.
I also want to value them to see a bigger picture value, like look at what you can create with this paradigm.
Yeah.
Well, what you were talking about though, about creating a space, I think connects directly to values because when you're living your values on the day-to-day, they start to take more significance. And when it starts taking more significance than these old functions of shame and fear and hurt, and now this is the most weighty thing in your life, empowerment, this becomes your go-to now. You're no longer over here, right?
You change your unconscious reflexes is what you do.
Right, and that creates then a space for empowerment. That's what you're really doing. If you chose empowerment and you're going to it over and over and over, it will get weighty to the point where it gets so significant in your life, it becomes form. It becomes right here.
All form is a reflection of a significant choice. Most of them are unconscious. I don't know why this couch and this apartment, but those are all choices. All choices that the unconscious and the subconscious are operating within. But they're your choices made before you got here. First you make choices to create the space in the environment, and then you come here, and so your family is expressing a set of values that I chose before I got here. But the experience of being here doesn't mean I have to stay with those original choices. You have to.
You mean like if you came into a Christian household, and that was the set that you had?
Good segue for where my brain wants to go.
Okay.
No, seriously, because I think it will be good for you guys to see how, like, Andrew and I chose our first value, how the second one came, and how we do this.
Like, I got 29 or something, 30 values now running all the time,
But the first one that I chose was empowerment, and how that came to be was Rick asked me to do a free write. Just write stuff that you love. I mean, I could bring up my phone, but I won't. But it was like, I try to keep it simple. Like, what do I love? I love traveling. I love my cats. I love, I was just talking about this, and he read it, and he's like, there's a lot of stuff in here about, like, empowerment. And he says, yeah, and you came in as a 2, Enneagram 2, if you don't know anything about the Enneagram. And so talk out why you knew that would be a good value for me. And I didn't take it because he told me when he said it, I was like, oh, yeah, because so much of my life I felt so disempowered. And then you said something about the two often chooses disempowerment in order to become empowered. But I can't. You talk.
Well, but even before you say that, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
you're talking about how you did the free write. Maybe just explain that a little bit. What you're actually doing there, because you're talking about how you actually find a value, and you're going off emotion, right? So explain what that was for you. How you were able to. What the free write actually does for you, because that'll be helpful for anybody who wants to choose.
He mentioned it in the Sunday's video too.
Oh, okay.
That you want to be emotionally connected. It's not thinking it out like what's the right. No, it's just what do you love, and you love things, and don't look for the right things. Just love. Like that's why my list. I would find it and show you because it was kind of ridiculous. Because I remember I didn't judge myself. I love my cats. I love eating.
I love high fashion.
I was like,
I love chocolate.
I don't think I was into the handbags yet.
Yeah,
that came later.
remember, yeah.
But yeah, so just that free write.
We're gonna do a video on handbags.
Yeah, we are. So yeah. So my question was, you knew that empowerment would be a big one for me because of.
Well, there's a lot of information I had about who you are,
Yeah.
and getting intimate and getting close to a person. At the same time, I'm being paid to be a mirror. So I am defining, I'm looking for all the hints and clues in your life, because form is following function. There's a metaphor behind everything that is form. And if you can find that metaphor and you shift that metaphor, form shifts with it. So after a while, when I know somebody, I start understanding how they think, how their sense of self is built. So like if you're, being a martyr, martyrs are looking for empowerment. That's the whole thing behind a martyr. So like if a person is doing a lot of martyr stuff, is what they're really hoping for is to figure out how to be an empowered person.
Yeah.
And they're doing it through being completely disempowered, to know what it's like to feel
Yeah.
so much disempowerment, because there's other reasons you're growing through struggle and pain. You don't have to grow that way. But often at the beginning, because we've been trained, the way that we've been raised, we come up with this pain and struggle. Like I have to beg and cheat and borrow and steal to get what I want. I can't really just ask for it anymore. So you build up this way to see the world, and therefore you learn through that way to see the world until you change that. Right? That's becoming more of a master at conscious reality when you start realizing, everything is a function of that. So I even the fact that I'm growing through pain and struggle, even though, great, grow through pain and struggle if that's available to you, which it is for most. But you want to get out of that sooner than later, too, to realize, no, I can grow through joy and excitement. My values are such a much more beautiful way of growing. But if you can just watch yourself during the day, even, and all of a sudden if something lit you up, like, and you realize, what got me lit up about that? And if you can articulate an ideal under there, you can articulate that ideal. I know what got me tickled. It was, love, or it was empowerment, or it was creativity, or it was willfulness, or it was freedom, or it was, there's going to be something underneath there that you're going to be able to go, it was the freedom that I liked in that. That's what got me. I love freedom. And then right now you're like, that's a fucking value. Yeah, I value freedom. Yeah, I do. And then all of a sudden you realize all the places you're not feeling free. And you're like, I got to push that envelope out now. And you begin the process. You have now stepped over the line, and you are not operating out of the past anymore. You're operating about the future, which is an ideal. I'm never going to be free enough. I'm always going to want to be more free. And so when I look at a situation, is this situation going to offer me greater freedom?
Yeah.
Yes, then yes, and I go after it with freedom in mind. And I pursue that freedom through what it is I'm trying to create. Because you will hit limitations, and the steps to getting there are the qualities of being there. And the qualities of being there are the steps to getting there. When I can own that future and feel it in my bones, I will have that now. And it's a process to get there, but you have to begin the process with a new set. You cannot begin that process based in the past.
Which is old values, other things.
Well, your parents' values, your church's values, and government
negative
values, and political party values.
Yeah.
All values are negative.
If it's not self-authored.
Yes. Because they're not yours. They're not feeding you. They're not doing anything for you whatsoever.
It didn't spring from your
That's why hard work is a value. Oh, God, I'm exhausted all the time because I'm just working so hard to try to get ahead. You realize, that's martyr. So, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm just looking underneath all the time. What's going on underneath? What's going on in the news what's underneath that? And how do I relate to that? And can I flip my emotional state positively and powerfully enough that tomorrow when I turn on the news, they're like, oh, that's changed now. Reality is a feedback mechanism. That's it. It's always been meant to be. Not something to validate you, invalidate you. But I have to create. I came here and adopted a set. None of that was chosen. All values until you pick your own are really not yours. You might get lucky. Some of you has, well, I do pretty good at work, or I do pretty good at a relationship. I do pretty good. Then you have positive values that you're actually like maybe unconscious of, but you're living it. But being conscious of it even changes it much more.
Exactly. Oh yeah. So I'll wrap up my
yeah. Sorry, I just heard something.
No, I was just doing my thing.
No. So because I want to get to your values too. So the first one that I chose was empowerment, because when he said, like, I think empowerment is something you're looking for, and it just rung. I was like, yeah. And so at first he said, pick a couple. I went with my own self-authorship by just feeling, I think for me it's one. And so I just had one value. I just felt like this is enough. This is so big. And I would just, no matter what's happening, like my boss asks me to do something. Am I empowered by saying yes, or am I disempowered by saying no? So that's how I would make my decisions from that moment forward. Anytime something would come into my field, am I empowered, am I disempowered? And then I would make the choice. And then a year into this, well, before a year, you told me I'm Johnny One Note. You need to get complex. You need more than one value list. And so I was like, oh, that's true. I am Johnny One Note. But a year later, I had I don't know if fling is the right word. I had a moment with an Italian. And,
on a cruise.
Yeah, on a cruise, yeah. And so then basically it was kind of a romantic, passionate moment. And he and I were supposed to, this is, I can't believe I'm sharing this. And then we were supposed to meet up in San Francisco. And then he kind of started blowing me off. And this is part of my past pattern where these guys just aren't reliable. And so I started to feel my adolescent trying to protect myself. And then I recognized that. So I was like, all right, let's calm down. What's the empowered choice right now?
How was your adolescent protecting itself?
Don't respond to him anymore. Like that, right?
I see, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't deserve you. He's a piece of shit. That kind of stuff. But instead, I just thought, no, wait, hold the phone. Like, let's just relax. My adolescent is afraid of things, but I need to know how I'm empowered or disempowered. And I couldn't answer the question because I was like, I don't care if I see him. I don't care if I do. I was kind of neutral. So at that point, I was like, I need another value. This isn't enough right now. So
your situation got more complex.
Exactly. And so then I
chose
chose intimacy in that moment because of course that is like a value for me. I already knew it would be coming. And so that's the moment it presented itself. You must take another value. This empowerment is now not complex enough. So I chose intimacy and then boom, I knew what to do. I wrote really long message full of so much honesty and just put it out there and I felt pumped afterwards. Whereas before I was in my head like kind of how do I feel about this guy? What am I doing?
See?
But instead, and then I knew what I was doing and I felt great. You know what I mean? Because now I'm going after intimacy. So that's how the values work. And then I think I chose the third one right after that because I realized you can't be intimate without honesty. So to me, those go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Well, see, complexity is paramount in evolution. Evolution is a lifting in complexity. It's an upward causation spiral in a sense. And so every time you add, if something's going down in your life and it's not, you just need to lift. And the way you lift is search out another value.
I love
it
that.
lifts the complexity in who you are, and the whole situation is going to take a shift in perspective, in attitude, and another positive shift in who you are. And that many times will solve what's going on in your life at the time. Another value, boom, I see what to do now.
And then I'll tell you the last one. That's the last one I'll do. And then this was very recent. So, we've been doing these videos. Andrew works really hard on them. We all do. But it's like Andrew's the editor. Yeah. It's really time consuming. And then at some point I decided, I'm going to help him with the video. And then after that, like something weird happened. Not weird, but we didn't get the video out that night. And so we're the type of people that were like, it's not a big deal. It doesn't matter that the video didn't come out on Sunday, but we made a decision to get them out on every Sunday, and it didn't happen, so let's look at it. So then after we started talking it out, and we really did, we were talking about exactly what happened here and like diving underneath, and then he got it out of me. He's like, what was your impulse to ask Andrew if you could help? And then I didn't know, but eventually got down to I felt like he wasn't paying enough attention to detail. It doesn't make this true or untrue. Your videos have been great. You guys obviously know. But when he said, okay, so that's what it is. And then for me, immediately my thought was, I feel like that should be my new value, because if I'm seeing somebody very important in my life not having attention to detail, I'm probably not. And it was interesting. After I chose attention to detail, I forgot more things than I've ever forgotten. I dropped the ball everywhere.
Yeah,
and so, I mean, I don't even know how to infer what that means.
And then I chose it right along with you. I missed a shoot.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
a media producer. I've never done this in my life before. I slept through my alarm and completely missed a shoot.
Yeah.
I was just like, what in the world's going on?
But you also, the day before, for whatever reason, set the entire shoot to be ready to go, and they were able to So he created a reality that he missed going to work, and it was fine.
Yeah, everything worked out just fine.
So anyway, so you've seen from me, like, how all these came, and they're kind of different. Like, the attention to detail was very different from how I chose my other ones. It was me taking greater responsibility, the stuff that he's always talking about. Things aren't just, like, happening. People aren't just, like, doing weird shit in your reality. It's like, if somebody's doing something you don't like and they're significant to you, I'm not talking about just some random person in the car next to you, but these people are very significant to me. So whatever's happening in their world, I have to understand, how do I relate to this?
Yeah.
And I didn't know 100% how I related, but I took the best step, which was, I think this is actually like a direct reflection of maybe a problem I have. And so I needed
and let me just
figure it out.
piggyback on that and explain that a little bit too, because it's about significance. So when you start living a value of putting a significance on a value like empowerment, it fractals. So when you start doing it every day, you'll start seeing it in your life in small ways. But as you continue to do it, it will start to echo to greater lengths in your life. It'll get out to the higher levels, and so it will start showing up in the people around you. I've noticed, since I've been more honest, since I've been more authentic, since I've been holding my values even stronger, I've just start seeing people in my life doing it naturally without having to say anything or do anything. They'll all of a sudden just start coming to me, sharing more with me.
That's a reflection of making things matter. Physical reality is light or matter. To make something significant out of all this stuff is a reflection of my unconscious mind. How am I going to interact with all of this if I don't create significance with something? The minute you create something significant, everything's magnified in that particular relationship now.
Yeah.
And so, your matter is very important, but it's like I have to make something a matter so it'll take shape, take form, but not so much matter that I can't change it again. And that's a place that every individual has to learn how to do. How do I create significance, and how do I create light? How do I let that go at the right moment, at the right time?
And you're realizing that I'm the significance. I choose the significance. I author it. So this, even though I want to manifest the things that I want to form, I still, once I get it here in form, it's not the most significant thing. That's why you drop the form. You don't get stuck and hung on the form, because it's not the most significant thing. You are.
This is like in a lot of systems, they're like, be detached. No, you're never detached. I know people are like, whoa, you never detach. What you detach is the form, but what you want, you must be holding that future strong and willfully and creatively, because I don't care what the form likes. I'm looking for a feeling. I'm looking for a function, right? So that I'm fully attached to. I'm not detached emotionally. I'm detached to what it's going to look like when it gets here. That way it's more fluid, it's more loose with reality, can be what it wants, and I'm looking for when I see it, I know it, because I'm sitting here holding it. I'm holding that.
Yeah. And I'll piggyback on that too, because I know a lot of people are probably coming from Law of Attraction and what's the movie? The Secret. The Secret, Law of Attraction, Secret. So the reason why a lot of that doesn't actually work or isn't sustainable is because you have to create with values.
Well,
so,
I think it works.
Let me just make this point here, because the way it actually is going is, in The Secret, they describe it as a genie, the universe, and say it is that you want a car, right? There's some car that you want, so they say you envision that car, you get specific about it, you envision the future of it, what's it like to drive it, and the whole point is you're generating the emotions of actually having it. So the more emotionality you create, you're creating the space so that I can receive it. The problem with The Secret is that it doesn't tell you when you do this. Say I want to go buy that Ferrari, and it seems like, wow, that's a big thing. That's $250,000 for that car. That's really big in my reality. It's going to stretch me. The functions that you're normally running on that are already heavy in your life are going to start coming into play. So if you don't feel good enough, that's heavy in your life already because you've been doing that for so long.
You go for your dream, you're not going to feel good enough tomorrow.
So the reason why the secret doesn't really work to sustain, to get something like that, is because you are trying to create something heavy enough in your life so that it comes in form, so that you actually manifest it. But the problem is you've lived years and years of your life manifesting other things based off of shame, fear, hurt. Now hold on.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening? Oh man, I lost it.
I'm sorry.
Jumped in. Dang it. What ends up happening is I completely lost it.
You're talking about the secret why it doesn't work because the form too
Stop
significant.
and then start again, and that way you can cut in.
Yeah.
Right? So go ahead, remind him.
You were talking about the secret, and you were like, the reason why that doesn't work, they're
Oh,
holding on to this
okay,
form.
okay. So the reason why it doesn't work is because when you start living with values, you're practicing it on a day-to-day, and that starts getting weight and significance in your life. And so now it becomes easy to manifest things you want because you've built it. You've put in the work by making those choices over and over, and it's become significant enough for you to now have those things. But with the secret, a lot of it falls off because it's not significant enough yet. You don't really fully believe and feel that you can have that Ferrari or whatever the reality is that you want because you have a lot of other functions running that are too significant for that one to come in.
I think I know what you mean. But
Am I not explaining it right?
I feel like as a viewer, I might have been
some
confused.
People follow it probably, and some people might not. But that's okay.
I'll clarify it the way that I think you said it. But do you agree or disagree?
Yeah.
I don't think he's saying that the secret doesn't work because it actually does. The whole premise of it is that if you want something and you generate the emotional feelings that you're having it now, it will come to you. But I think the reason why it quote unquote doesn't work from what we're saying is, why don't you have that to begin with? So for somebody like, let's keep it simple. I want $1 million house. So according to the secret, as long as you just sit there every day with looking at your vision board and you believe you're going to get a house, you're going to get your $1 million house. It doesn't work though if you have a belief that you're not worthy of a nice house. That's what you need to address because you can't reframe it. You know
that's why you always look at what came.
Yes.
I want $1 million house, and today somebody offered me to live in their garage. Mm-hmm. That's what you created out of wanting that $1 million house, and then there's a discrepancy and there's a negative belief in there that now I have to unplug.
Yeah.
Well, but the point is what I was trying to make is that when you're going for the $1 million house, you're identifying in our approach, what function am I actually going for?
Yeah, totally.
It's not the $1 million house. What does that mean to me? It means success. That's what the $1 million house symbolizes.
Or
for
it
me.
means security.
So
in
I'm
a certain
going
way.
for success in that scenario. So if I'm going for success, that becomes my value. And when you start living on the value of success every single day, that's what becomes significant. So now the house can come to me easily because I've owned it and I've made small choices first. And then they became bigger choices. And then I started receiving things I didn't even realize I could receive from success because I was living it, and it became heavier in my life, more significant in my life than the shame, than the not good enough, than the anger that I want to project out. All of those different things just start to fall off because this is now the most significant. So if you're just starting out with the secret and the law of attraction, most likely you're not going to get the Ferrari, you're not going to get the things you want because it's not yet significant enough. And by living by values and function, you learn how to make it.
And also you might be too attached to the form. Because most people wouldn't sit there thinking, what's the real function? Me and handbags, let me tell you, the function is, what joy. You know, I've been into like designer handbags lately, and people are like, designer handbags.
You should have a handbag.
It's like more than a month's rent, and I'm like, fuck yeah, this is like freedom and joy and fun. It's like, oh yeah, it's taking off all these boxes. Yes, like beauty, like preference.
Functions.
Yeah, and so it's like, don't worry about the handbag. I care, but I don't care, right?
I want to be fly, enlightened.
Like, look at these shoes.
Yeah. And in the process of getting your handbags, you found out all kinds of stuff about fashion, other things that you like, shoes, pants, things that you like.
Yeah, it's just joy. But it's the function that I'm after, not the actual handbag. It's like,
that's not
I want the handbag as well. There's nothing wrong with the form, but it's like it's the function
Sometimes
you're after.
It's nice when the form is right there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about how you chose your values and your journey in that.
When I first started with Rick, I think because Liz had already taken Rick's
course.
Rick's course. So I had a little intro into it, and so I was already ready to go with authenticity when I entered Rick's program because I had already been practicing a little bit. Liz had educated me on a lot of the stuff Rick was teaching. And I knew for me in my life that authenticity was a big one because first and foremost, I want to find and know how to express myself from my authentic self. But then also I wanted to come out in a way that's good and that feels good. Whereas in my past, there was a lot of hiding, resisting, holding myself back. I've had a lot of shame from my past. For those of you who don't know, I'm bisexual. Anybody who's watching this, a lot of people in my life, my family, friends, don't know this stuff because it's something that I held secret for so long. And so for me, authenticity was so important and valuable to do that because it meant coming out. It meant coming out in a way to just accept. Thank you. Coming out in a way to accept myself and be authentic with myself and not play any of these little manipulation games that we just went over where I feel like I have to, the only way I can get something is by taking this diverted route, because if I go truly authentic, then people are going to see who I am, and a lot of who I am was met with shame in my past. So to be authentic was one of the biggest things. It's a doozy of a value, I think, to pick right off the bat, because it like really started showing myself really hardcore and how much I was actually being dishonest, how much I actually wasn't living in integrity, and still, even today, have some of those things coming. So authenticity, I think, has shook up my life, but authenticity then became at a certain point honesty. And that was just recently, the last few
How
weeks.
are those different for you? Like,
so authenticity is more about just being myself and being like, I'm gonna, because some of the things that I've done in my life is held myself back at moments when I've had something to say, but I didn't. I thought, I'm not good enough, so I can't say that. I can't come out and actually voice my opinion. And so I'd hold back. So that's authenticity. It's like, I'm going to be authentic. This is what I feel right now. I'm going to speak up and be authentic. Honesty is relationship. That's where it's come from me, is like, if I'm going to be authentic with Rick, I have to be honest with Rick. If I'm going to be authentic with Elizabeth, I got to be honest with her.
Forthright.
What's that?
Forthright.
Forthright, honest and forthright. Well, that's it, yeah. So, and then what I started to do with that recently is, I don't even know if I want to bring this in. It's work.
it would be bravery.
I'll just say this. So, in my work environment, I wasn't being fully forthright. There was some work that I was taking on the side, some things that I was doing to gain money for myself, which is good, but I wasn't being communicative with my employer about it. So I was doing something a little bit manipulative, making sure that I'm not, letting the work that I take on the side interfere, but I wasn't actually communicating with my boss, communicating with, people that I work with about how and what I was doing. And so I had an opportunity to do it, to be honest, and tell my boss.
And again right now.
Yeah, and tell my boss what I was.
Yeah,
exactly.
Fuck yeah.
I had the opportunity to do it, and I didn't. And I called Rick afterwards, because it occurred to me, it was like, I saw the opportunity. I knew that I actually just wanted to say it, but I was scared of the outcome. I was scared that if I said the truth, something bad could happen. I could lose my job, or maybe he's mad, and I'm gonna, something, whatever it is, something bad could happen for me being honest. So I talked to Rick, and Rick's like, "You gotta do it." He was just like, "You gotta do it." And so that was one of the big moments for me, actually, because I went to my boss, and I actually ended up having to tell my boss that I was straight up dishonest with you, which was a big one, because I had to own up to what I did. And then I told my boss just what I was doing, and that I was taking some freelance stuff on the side. And the whole thing was great. We had an amazing conversation. He just told me, let's just communicate. He was supportive of me wanting to grow, make more money. And I walked out on the other side with all kinds of self-esteem, just feeling so pumped and free, feeling a lot more free in my work environment, because I brought myself forward, right?
There's something that happens when you bring yourself forward, and it's like when you go to a new place like that, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna do this, and when you open the door and you acknowledge who you have been and you do what and you're following your values, what happens is, now that I've gone through a fear, not only me in a very positive emotional place coming from this value, but now that I've gone through a fear utilizing these values, I open a reservoir of love. It's like you in a video game and you just jump over in this nowhere land and get doing, get coins. You don't realize that because of who you are being and because of what you've approached, you get a rush of self-esteem. You get a rush of confidence. And it's real. It's not a fake quick thing that my ego gave me
it's
because I said,
sustainable.
oh, and it's just
sustained.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's like a real high.
Yeah, and you feel
a
good.
real
and it
high.
lasts,
Yeah.
like, and even before going into that conversation,
it's even lasting now. You can hear it in your voice,
Yeah.
telling the story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's getting lighter. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So even before I went in, so one of the things you do when you choose your values, okay, this is what I'm going to do. But then triggers came up because it was like, if I tell the truth, I had a belief. If I'm honest and tell the truth, because I'm coming from being bisexual and that wasn't good in the church, and I couldn't do all that. I couldn't let anybody know that I had this part of myself. And so what it meant to me at that time in my life was, if I'm honest about who I am, it's going to damage my life. Mm-hmm. And so when I was going in to do this with my boss, my adolescent showed up and was like, don't tell him. Mm-hmm. Don't tell, you can tell him that you're going to freelance, but don't tell him you were dishonest, right? Because that could ruin things. And he was like, really, and I had to talk to him and when I'm talking to him, I'm just going into meditation, talking to myself, talking to my adolescent. And I just told him, dude, I know you're scared right now, but this is the best thing for me to do. And I know it. And so just get on board with me. And I was super soft and get on board. And what ends up happening is all of a sudden everything just kind of relaxes and calms down. Because I gave myself the love that I needed. The adolescent was freaking out. Don't fucking say it. You can't do it. But when you start to love yourself in that way, you're now connecting down to your adolescent, down to your child, and connecting to yourself in an intimate way. And now when I go and do something like this, it's like I'm not walking into it with an adrenaline rush. I'm not freaking out. I'm walking into it much more cool, much more calm. Even today, coming on camera, reality create, talk to my adolescent, talk to my child, process, so that I can actually live up to my values in the way that I want to. So, so that's what I did, and I went and told, my boss, and like I said, afterwards it was awesome. Yeah. And then it's created, what's happened from there has now been a snowball of all kinds of more opportunities to be honest, forthright, and bring myself to the point now where I just feel really, really free. Like, you know what I mean? Free in a way that I haven't, especially in my work environment, because it's attached to my security and money, all the different areas of my life, so it becomes this significant, serious thing. But because I lifted it and elevated that whole space with my values, it's no longer this heavy kind of a thing.
And like the way that your adolescent was like, well, if I say this, I could get in trouble. Same with talking to the girl at the bar. As long as you're making a calculated decision, you're not living by values, you're an adolescent, and you're just like not going to be really living like a gangster awesome life.
You're not going to feel anything.
And you want to. Like, that's probably why anybody's watching this channel. Like, people are looking for healing or whatever. I mean, like, for me, I always call it simple, to feel good. You could call it healing, you call it these things, it's all of it. But really, it's like we're here to have a good time, to have fun, to enjoy beauty, like all the things that we've had in these videos, like, we mean it. And this life is beautiful and it's joyful and it should be fun. Like, exactly, you want to feel good in every moment.
And the values is how you do that. It's how you actually feel good. That's really that. I actually struggled a bit with my values, I think, for a while. Like, I was back and forth. I had some weeks where I would just kind of fall off on it a little bit and realize, oh yeah, I'm not. And Rick would usually be the one to point it fucking out.
With a bat.
Sometimes
people need a bat.
More oftentimes people need a bat. No, I mean, I know. I'm just
it's like a feather.
I forgot what I was going to say. Whatever.
But I was going to just say a couple things. And I forgot.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I was going to say, I don't know why I hang on to this, but I wanted to say it for people watching, because I've asked a few people, like, so what would one of your values be? I don't have, like, a really large group of people I've asked, just a few, but I did notice that they all said love or success. I'm like, that sounds cool, it sounds nice. I think it's probably everybody's value, both of those. That sounds awesome. But my advice would be, like, those sound terrible as the first couple values, because they're so broad to me. Like, it's like, how do you love? Because the truth is, I was such a martyr
self-love
for most of my life that it's like,
more
sometimes
specific.
A person that I care about, that I want to have love with, will ask me to do something, and I've been such a big martyr. It's like, well, is it loving?
Well, see, that's the adolescent's answer too. It's like love. That would be, because there we go.
That's what I want.
Or what is success?
Everybody's gonna agree with me. That was a good one.
But you want to choose something that for you is very crystal clear. Maybe empowerment isn't crystal clear for everybody. It was mine because it was very clear. I would know, no matter what situation, left empowered, right disempowered. Like, it should be that clear, and that's because it's motivated by feeling. Oh yeah, let's talk about your
first one.
Yeah, let's talk about your values.
Dude, every time you bring that up, I feel like it's one I want to bring on. It feels so good.
I mean, it's why I'm American. That's why I'm here. It's like, that's what's upsetting to me about everything that's going on, is the loss of freedom going on, and nobody's even talking about that.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about the lack of freedom, that we're supposed to be the most free place, and people say we're not the most free country. We're supposed to be. We're supposed to be. That's what you don't get. You got to make it that way. You know, you lose freedom over time if you don't incorporate it in a choice, because that's how freedom is. It needs to breathe. It needs to be incorporated. If it's not incorporated, you're already losing it. So freedom was always my most important. I mean, now many, many things I know about myself, I understand deeper and deeper why it's freedom. But yeah, I had my values written, like I made a huge blackboard in my studio, like it's 20 feet long and 8 foot high. And I used to journal through the whole year. I would block off months and draw pictures, and this is what I'm going through this month, and this is what I'm getting through this month, and this is how I meditated about it. And I just see the whole thing, but my values were always written on the wall. I could always just look up.
That's a good idea.
And just, it was just big.
I have them written on a little whiteboard.
Just get a tattoo.
No.
Yeah.
Right on the forehead.
Yeah, but yeah, values, gosh. And now the thing is, you incorporate them one at a time. It's like someone said, well, what are your 29 values? I can't even tell. I just know that I'm around 29 now, because I'm incorporating one at a time. And after a while, you're like, what are my values? You don't, once you've made it significant, once you've put it inside, you're now unconscious of it.
Yeah.
You're choosing it, but you always know how you feel. I never, well, not never, but very few times do I lose my focus. Do I lose where I am? Do I lose how I'm communicating with somebody? It's like I sometimes will say something and I'll hear my values like come right out of my mouth. Like, yeah, that's me. That's exactly what I want right now. It's exactly my preference, to how to experience something. And so for some people, it's difficult to be around a person who's living a life of preference, because they're not.
Yeah.
And so you're now a resonant pattern in the field that is part of their shadow. Like, yeah, I want to be empowered. I wish I could do everything I want, but I just can't. There's certain duties and obligations you have to do, and I can't be so free like you're
right. Yeah.
This kind of thing comes out. So when you're living your values, you have to really understand when you're more complex and more into that value, you become a place of projection. And by holding that value is the only way that person even learns about that projection.
So thank you for joining Conscious Reality creator Elizabeth Jackson, Rick Paris, Andrew Thompson. We're going to be doing a lot more of these type of videos, conversations, and again, we want you to reach out to us if you have questions, because I know we were kind of just going back and forth, got a lot going on. If there's anything that's not clear, anything you want to know more, reach out, especially to Rick. He will definitely answer the questions. Just put something in the comments. And just connect with us, because we love it. We're having fun doing this stuff. We're making cool videos.
Yeah, and if you have any advice for us on
the
format of this video, if you liked it, didn't like it, what we could do different. I mean, we're so new to this. So thank you so much for being here. Subscribe, hit the ring bell button. Yes, that's what you say on YouTube. Do it though. Do it.
That's good.
Do it for you and do it for us.
But mainly for us.
All right. Thank you very much.